Good afternoon, everyone. This is TractorMan 44. You know, we had that little Splitter Wars demonstration of various wood splitters last week, and it was really a fun time. There was quite a variety of wood splitters, from home built, you know, of course, even commercial or light commercial wood splitters, as far as some good homeowner lines. I want to thank Roger from Tractor Tech for the concept, for the idea, and for rounding up the ones of us that were invited to attend. I appreciate that. You know, kind of come out of the dark for me. You know, I kind of wanted to thank all the viewers, especially the viewers that made it through all 8 channels and watched all the videos. Hopefully it maybe give you a little bit of an idea, you know, to think about what direction you want to go if you are planning on buying a splitter or building one. And also want to thank the new subscribers. I don't know how many I've got, but I got a number of new subscribers out of it, and that's pretty cool. That's kind of a, what do they call that, a unintended consequence. I didn't really think about that much whenever they asked me, but it's like, well, heck yeah, man, we'll go ahead and do it because, you know, hey, it's fun. I try not to take anything too serious. I had to be serious my whole career, and now that I'm retired, you know, I don't like taking anything serious at all. I like to have fun, everything I do, because for 42 years doing the stuff that I did, I was under the gun all the time and had to be serious, and I just am tired of being serious. I ain't gonna do it no more. So, you know, what you see is what you get. But at any rate, I sincerely thank, you know, Roger, the viewers, and also the new subscribers, and also, of course, you know, my old subscribers, you know, the old diehards that I can't run away, you know, they're pretty cool. One of the things about the videos that might have been a little misleading, you know, was whenever we sped up, you know, the videos, especially if we only sped them up, you know, like 2 times or something, it looked like we might have been moving pretty at a pretty hectic pace, you know, working pretty hard. And in fact, we really weren't working that hard. If you go to the parts of the videos, you know, that are at actual speed, and you're going to see the movements of the guys, you know, in the splitters, really are not that fast. They're measured, you know, they're measured, calculated, slow, and reasonably normal movement. I worked just a little bit harder, you know, because, you know, I just wanted to do a good job and everything, you know, as far as splitting is concerned, and I left the pieces larger than what I would normally do. But, you know, we were supposed to make, you know, six pieces out of the large ones. So I did kind of want to touch base about that, you know, because, you know, I don't want anybody to think, you know, hey, I'm an old guy, you know, hell, I'm going to fall over dead. Well, I might do that anyway, you know, but it really wasn't that much work. It's just another day in the neighborhood, you know what I mean? Because anytime we got a little spare time, you know, we split for 45 minutes or an hour, maybe an hour and a half, you know. You have to look about the different types of wood splitters too, and there were some awesome wood splitters in it. You know, I can't say enough about Joe. Man, Joe's homemade box wedge, that was absolutely incredible. With his jib and everything, you know, and his electric winch, that was just absolute genius. You know, and I saw him kicking back and looking at Playboy magazine. He says it wasn't a Playboy, but I think it was. But at any rate, and those commercial machines are really good. Every machine in there has some good points. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But you have to think about the evolution. And one of the things I think that was kind of cool about having me involved is because mine's first generation, or can be considered first generation. Everything evolves. You know, that's the nature of evolution. You know, if it weren't for Model Ts, we wouldn't be driving the vehicles we're driving today. You know what I mean? So if it wasn't for the first generation log splitters, which were essentially nothing but a beam, a pump, a wedge, and a push block, you know, and a control valve, 5 basic parts. If it wasn't for that generation of wood splitters, we wouldn't have the evolution into what we've got now. You know, the first generation was just the basic wood splitter. Then the next thing they came in with log lifts and everything, you know, and that's pretty cool. Then all of a sudden they come in with, you know, like higher GPM, you know, they all have 2-stage pumps on them smaller ones. But at any rate, you know, they go to larger cylinders, you know, and then different relief valve settings, everything, increasing the capacities and all that stuff. Beyond that, you come into the multiple split wedges, you know, the 4-way wedges, 2-way wedges, you know, and all these other things you got nowadays. But it's all evolution, you know. I was kind of proud to represent the old school, the basic wood splitter. This one, however, is just a little bit removed from first generation with the advent of this axle that allows it to kneel down on the ground. I think that's a really good point. We don't have to worry about a log lift or anything like that. Talking about first generation log splitters like mine, you know, it's labor intensive. You're going to work your butt off if you work one of these wood splitters. Any of the wood splitters, you're going to work your butt off. But everybody gets exercise whenever you do it. It's just some of us get a little bit more exercise. It put us in our graves a little bit faster. But anyway, the evolution kind of has a tendency to minimize your efforts and maximize your labor to get a greater output. You know, that's the log lifts and all this kind of stuff. Then you got all the safety stuff. Well, that's better for your back and all. Well, it really is, you know. I mean, you know, hey, we grew up on a farm out there, you know, we didn't have the proverbial window to throw the proverbial pot out of, you know what I mean? And we had to work for everything we had. You know, we didn't know nothing but hard work and worry, so what the heck, it ain't no big deal. You know, this is so much better than, no offense, Wooly, but our mall fella, but this is much better in my estimation than doing a mall, because I don't need that much exercise. I don't mind getting some, but I don't need that much exercise, you know. Split enough of it like that back whenever I was younger, and believe me, I like hydraulics a lot better. But at any rate, it's the newer ones, you know, are designed to maximize your labor. You know, you increase your output, less physical expense on your body. You know, and that's really a cool thing. Again, that's evolution. Look at some of the commercial rigs they got. My God, they got them on the front of skid loaders that just picks them up and just blows them right out the end of this multi-wedged son of a gun. Looks like a blooming onion, you know, coming right out the back, out the end of it, you know, 24, 30 inches diameter. They're pretty incredible. Never even thought of such a thing. But anyway, you know, exercise is good for you anyway. I mean, you know, a lot of people say, man, they'd rather split wood by hand anyway, you know, because they want that exercise. You know, so what if you have to work a little bit harder, you know, to split a little wood with an old style wood splitter? There's that cost effectiveness, you know, because we have a great spectrum of cost differences, I think, in just the 7 machines that we had on ours. I have tendency to believe that mine was probably the most cost effective, because dollar for pound, I think mine is probably the cheapest, and it's definitely the oldest. But it doesn't matter. It's what you're going to do with it. A couple of the guys are commercial producers. I mean, they have side businesses, you know. They need to get the product going, you know. They need to get it through the machine and get it out there and get it sold. I ain't got to do that. I ain't never sold a stick of wood in my life. Don't intend on, you know. This is just for me and my family, you know, and people that I give it to, because I've given a ton of it away over the year. At any rate, it's just what it is that you're going to do with it. Personally, this is just fine and dandy, good enough for me. I won't spend money on another one unless this one here breaks down. Then I'll just spend money to fix it. And of course, I've got my Lovejoy coupling that I'm gearing up right now. You can see my liquid wrench here behind me, my hammer, and Allen wrench, you know. I've got to pop apart that Lovejoy and slip in my new Spider. And I've been looking at my chains, even though I keep it greased and everything, you know, and keep the bearings greased. My main drive gear up there is starting to get some wear on it, so that's going to have some attention. And that old number 50 chain, that's a 1/2 inch chain. It's getting a little bit of age to it, so I have to check the rollers. Might have to put that on there. But that's just considered routine maintenance. You know, we've never really had any major failure at all. Oh, there was a couple of comments about, you know, like I think a couple of guys might have seemed to think that some of the voids in the wood might have meant that we did split quite as much as others. Nobody expected us to have an exact 42.5 or 6 cubic feet of wood, and I think everybody went over and above and had more to compensate for the voids in their wood pile. If you do any splitting at all, you know the larger the rounds are that you're splitting, the greater percentage your pile of wood grows at the tail end. So on mine in particular, I had several of them that were sticking up above my 4 foot mark. And I actually had like 97 or 98 inches in length, which is a little over 8 foot, and 48.5 inches in height, plus the ones up above it. And I didn't even bother stacking mine. I threw it in the bucket and dumped it in the woodshed. I'll stack it in woodshed, and it's already mixed in with other stuff. So, but there is no doubt about it that virtually everyone here split, in my estimation, a very minimum of 25% more than what was actually suggested in that 1/3 of a card, simply because the physical size of our rounds between 12 and 16 inch, and of course Wooly had some that were much larger, you know. But anyway, the greater the size of the rounds, the greater the percentage that you're going to grow. That's just the nature of it. Now, if you stack in a whole bunch of little guys that only need to be busted in half, you know, say they're 7 inches in diameter, and you stack those guys in there, now that pile's not going to grow that much, you know, because it's going to tightly pack in between your 4 foot by 8 foot space, and there's not going to be a lot of voids, you know, and whenever you split it, it ain't going to grow that much. But the bigger stuff will definitely grow. There ain't no doubt about it. So at any rate, I hope y'all, hope y'all viewers got an opportunity to see, you know, the variety of splitters, and make your choice. If you're thinking about buying something, do you need a commercial machine? Do you need a lighter duty residential machine? Do you need to build something, you know, out of the scrap pile? It's just whatever you want to do. But one thing that you might need to consider is all your smaller ones, you know, that you buy at the big box stores. They're all small horsepower, you know, 5 and 6, 7 and 8 horsepower. and most of them have 4 or 5 inch rams on them. You got to be a little bit careful, and you have to know what question to ask or try to figure out the specs, because a lot of times there'll be just a spit's difference between one that's rated at 24 ton versus one that's rated at 30 ton, or 24 to 26 or 30 to 35. And what they'll do is they'll up the horsepower by maybe a half a horsepower, and they'll go from a 4-inch to a 5-inch cylinder, and they will take the relief valve and screw the adjustment in just a little bit on the relief valve to give you higher pressure. Well, obviously pressure creates tonnage, and so they can sell you something that is very negligible in increased cost to them for a much higher cost, to you at the end user. Joe and I had this conversation about tonnage capacities, and you got to stop and look at your cylinder. You've got a cylinder that has a certain amount given area. If you push on that area with certain amount of force, you're going to create a given amount of pressure. Okay, so that means if you take the area of the cylinder and multiply it times the relief valve, the setting in PSI, in pounds per square inch, of the relief valve in your control valve, and then divide that number by 2,000, you're going to get the tonnage capacity of that machine. Now there's other things that come into play, the GPMs and all that stuff, and that's a little misleading too, because if you have a 9 gallon per minute pump that's rated at 9 gallons, that's on the first stage, which allows the ram to go faster, but whenever it gets into a little bit of a push, what happens, that ram slows down because there's changes inside the 2-stage pump that changes the ratio, and the amount of oil that is pumping is much less, but it's able to increase the pressure because of the smaller horsepower engine. It can't increase the pressure by moving the same volume of oil. So the GPM goes down from that rated GPM at the single stage and allows it to produce that higher pressure that creates the tonnage. So all you have to do is adjust the relief valve pressure up and calculate what it is you're changing, and you can increase the tonnage capacity of your splitter. Is that recommended? No. Manufacturers do it all the time, but they do other things, like they might make the beam just a little bit thicker, maybe put an additional slide plate or something on top wherever the ram's pushing back and forth, things like that, kind of beef it up just a little bit. But still, all those costs are pretty much negligible to them as compared to what it is that they're able to sell it for. And that's a whole nother subject. Just 3 minutes of me discussing it or talking about it or rambling about it does not do the whole subject justice at all. It's just that you just need to be aware, how easy it is to change the rating of your wood splitter. Like this thing here is not rated for that much at all, because we've got the relief valve set really low because I don't want to do any damage. This is a single stage pump. We have the relief valve set real high. I get into I'll be killing my motor all the time on these little tractors. And to run a larger horsepower tractor, for 90% of the wood, I don't need it, and I'm wasting all that fuel on the much larger tractor. So I'd much rather run the smaller tractor, do it a little bit faster than the vast majority of my wood a little bit faster, and be happy with it. So I hope that's not too awfully confusing. I hope that I didn't ramble too awful much about hydraulic splitters and the hydraulic pumps and all that. I'm not a real good hydraulic guy. I understand basically the concept, but I don't know that much about hydraulics. I ain't trying to tell you I do. At any rate, it was a fun time. I hope you all got to see some stuff that would entertain you a little bit. Like I say, everything I do is for entertainment, man. I don't do anything for serious, I don't need that stress. I got enough gray hair, man. Well, like I said, I come out here to knock my Lovejoy coupling apart and get that spider in. Looks like there's a little bit of moisture coming in behind us over there. It's kind of darkening up over there, and going to get wet here if I don't wrap this up. So, again, I thank everybody that was involved. I really appreciate meeting all the different guys. Of course, I knew a couple of them. I knew Joe and I knew GP, but I appreciate the opportunity to meet all those guys. Everybody's a great bunch of guys. They're all hard-working guys, man. Especially those young guys that's got that, that entrepreneurial spirit. They're out there working full-time job. They're still hustling around getting wood and everything and building a little side business by selling wood. My hat's off to them. I ain't got that energy. I don't have that desire. Might need the money, though. You know what? Thanks, everybody. This is Dragon Man 44, and I am out of here, man.